In this session, I'll demonstrate how to configure forums in a course in Moodle or eLearning. So let's suppose that in our course here we want to create a forum, a weekly forum for our students to discuss a specific topic and then for them to interact with one another. To do that, we could use the forum module within Moodle. We click here on Add an Activity or a Resource, and then we choose the forum option. Click on Add, and then simply give it a name. In this case, I'll just try to keep the numbers in sequence in the course activity, so I'll call it 1.7. And then here under the description area, once we put the title, we are going to type in there the content that you want the students to discuss. So we'll press here Control V. I just copied this from earlier. And then you can put in there additional details as well as to how it will be graded and what you expect them to do. So you state they need to post their initial discussion and then respond to at least 2 other peers in the class, and then how you're going to grade this as well. Now, there are different types of forum discussions that you can use in a course, and the default one here is what we recommend that you utilize. Basically what that will do is create a listing, different thread for each student in the class. So once each student responds and posts their response, then other students in the class will be able to go and engage and reply to that particular student. So there will be separate threads. If you want the students to first post their own and then see other peer responses, then you might want to consider the Q&A forum. However, there is a tricky part to it that you need to post the question initially. You need to do that initial post that I'll show in a little bit and how to do it. But in most cases, we do recommend that you simply use a standard forum for general use. As far as finding out more details for these, you can always click on this little question mark and it will explain additional details as well. So then you could go under other areas and other settings here. We do not recommend that you do cutoff dates and starting dates and such. You could if you are going to stay on top of those dates. However, it can frustrate the students if you don't make clear, if you don't have the right settings in the forum, and then if you don't notify them as to what the parameters are going to be for that particular forum. Under attachments and such, you could control how much or what the students can upload and how many words and all that type of stuff to display the word count if you prefer. Then under the submission and tracking or subscription and tracking, this is basically what controls the correspondence. Typically, we recommend that you use a subscription mode here to optional subscription. It allows the students to get email notifications, or it allows them to unsubscribe and not receive them. We have found that some students want the notifications, some others don't. And then read tracking, you can choose to make this optional as well. Basically, then the students will see and you'll see how many forum posts you have not read yet in the course. Other areas here that you might want to consider and look at would be under the grade area. This is where you can specify under which project this falls under, provided you have configured the grade book. Then under ratings, this is kind of key. This is where you specify whether you are going to grade each post or not grade it. And this is what tells the system to show this forum activity in the grade book or not show it. So basically, in most cases here, you could choose sum of ratings and this setting, or you could use the average of ratings as well. Sum of ratings would be, let's say you're going to grade the first post out of 80 points and then each subsequent post up out of 10 points. Then the system will add, let's say 75 that the student scored for the first post, then 10 for the second post, and 9 for the third post, and that came to 94 out of 100. And in that case, the system will record an A, for example, in that for that activity in the course. If you choose average of ratings for each post, that means that each post you're going to grade it against 100 points, and then the system is going to add however many times the student participated, and in each discussion, in each response and such, and then the system is going to post the average of those ratings. Now, the problem with the average of ratings is that sometimes the student may do poor work on the first post that requires more effort, and then their grade gets bumped up because on their responses they can bump up their grade. However, that's why we suggest that you use the sum of ratings here. Now, once you go here under sum of ratings, this is where you can then specify how many points you're going to grade against. So if you state it up in the description here, 80 points for the first and 10 points for each subsequent response, then we'll use 100 points. So just try to keep in mind what you set that high ceiling or the standard there. Now, you can also use here, instead of points, you can use a particular scale if you'd prefer. And these would be either system-based scales or customized scales for your institution. For example, here at Cairn, we have a bunch of those defined here. And one of them is, for example, the School of Business forum grading. Or you could have something like this, for example, novice, competent, proficient, or exceptional. So any of those, basically the idea here would be that once you choose either one of those, instead of assigning points, you're choosing one of those options listed in here. So for now, I'm going to keep this configured as using points, and we're going to use 100 points. We don't suggest that you mess with the restricting of ratings, putting any dates in there, because then the system will not allow you to grade any of such stuff after that deadline that you might set in here, and then you're going to wonder what happened and why it's not working. Under activity completion, you can choose to utilize it. By default, it is that students can mark this activity completed manually. However, you can change this to be conditional, where the student would be required to have 3 posts or discussions, and that's when they'll get a check mark or the system will mark it as completed. If this doesn't show up on your end, that means that in your course configuration, the completion tracking is not enabled. Now, this stage, we click on Save and Return to the course, and at this point, we have configured the forum for this course. The students will be able to click on it. They'll see what the requirements are, the additional details, and then they'll simply click on Add a new discussion topic. They'll put in a subject, the message here, and then they'll press Post to the forum. And in the next segment, I'm going to demonstrate how to grade one of those forums and how to post the grades for each student responses.